Hi, it's Mariana here, and today I'm going to talk about the HEXACO Personality Test. This test is, in my opinion, the most well-rounded personality test available online today. The HEXACO stands for the 6 categories you're going to be tested on: the honesty, humility, emotionality, extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. If you see some similarities to the big test, it's because it tests the same 5 categories plus the humility and honesty. This test takes you about 20 minutes and you answer 100 questions. It's available free of charge online. The link will be down below, so feel free to take a look. And while doing the test, you're going to agree or disagree on different statements. So, such a statement may say, I am bored when I visit an art gallery. And you mark it either strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. When you're finished with the test, it's going to give you scores in the 6 above mentioned categories plus the subcategories. It's also going to show you how you compare to all the other people that have taken this test in the past. This is thousands and thousands of people, so you will not only see your patterns and traits, but also how you compare to other people. When you're doing the hexagon test, as I said, it's going to give you an overview of your stable patterns. So it's not going to tell you how you're going to react in any given situation, but what the tendency is. When you get the test results, look for the scores that are above or below average, especially if they are above like the 80 percentile or lower than 20 percentile, because those are going to be the distinctive features of your personality. That's what makes you unique compared to the average person. And just remember that whether the score is high or low, it can be interpreted as both advantage and disadvantage. Basically, it depends on how you're going to use it. So I, for example, have a very low score in agreeableness, which means I can be sometimes perceived as a jerk because I immediately see and point out problems that there are and flaws, and I don't have problems telling that people very directly, because how I see it is like, okay, there is a problem, we need to talk about it. Why to sugarcoat it? But of course, this, if my colleagues bring me their products and I immediately start with, oh, I see here is a problem, here is a problem, that doesn't make me very popular. So I have to understand how to work with it, and this test helped me because although I was aware of it, I wasn't aware of how actually far away from average this is. So now I take it as an advantage in I am the person to go to when we are testing some kind of new product and we need to find the problems that the users might encounter. But I'm also aware of it. So what I do is I use a filter and I spot those problems, but I try to share them in a more diplomatic way. So make sure that when you're looking at the scores, you kind of understand, okay, those might be advantages and disadvantages. It depends on how I use them. Where on the website, which I'm going to link below, there is a really detailed explanation of all 6 categories of the HEXACO test. What I believe makes it a really great test is because it's not only those 6 categories, there are also subcategories. So each category has 4 or 5 subcategories. For example, the extraversion category basically answers a question, are you an extrovert or an introvert? This is a question that we've all been asked many times. And I personally have struggled with this question in the past because people would usually see me as an extrovert. Because I love public speaking, I don't mind being around people, I have a lively personality, and all those things that when you think about an extrovert, that's me. But I also know that I like to be alone. I like to read books alone. I don't mind spending several days without any contact with the outside world. I actually am afterwards really relaxed and really in a good mood. So I was like, so am I an extrovert or an introvert? What's going on here? And the HEXACO test answered it for me, because there are 4 subcategories. There is the social boldness, social self-esteem, liveliness, and sociability. In the first 3 subcategories, I scored really, really high, like 90 percentile. But in the sociability, I was really, really low. What that means, the sociability is basically how you enjoy small talk and parties and those kind of things. And, based on the score, you can see I hate small talk. I'm like, can we just skip towards the proper conversation? And I'm also not a big fan of parties or things like this. So it kind of showed me like, oh yeah, I have this part of me that is an extrovert and part of me that is an introvert. It helped me to understand this better. So why should you take this test? The HEXACO test can help you in several ways. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that when I talk about creating a change in your behavior, I always start with, let's pause, analyze the situation, and then once we understand the situation we are in, we can then change something. And the same goes for your personality. If you want to change something in your personality, you're unhappy with how you react in certain situations and so on, you have to start with understanding who you actually are. And HEXACO is really perfect, a perfect test for it. Don't expect to be shocked. You've been you for many, many years. And if you've answered all the questions truthfully, it's very unlikely that you will be like, what? Like, I've never expected that. Like, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be any shocking news. It might surprise you, like I was surprised with my low agreeableness score, how you compare to other people. But it should not really come as a shock, the results. What you might do with the test as well is you can give it to people that are close to you. So for example, your partner. If you're in a relationship, it can be really useful to do the test, that if both of you do the test, because then you can see like, oh, here in these categories we are, basically the same, but this category there is a big difference. Because if there is a difference, at some point it will create problems. For example, one of you might have a really high score in social status, and another one can have really low. So one person might be like, my dream house is a mansion with peacocks running around and I don't know what. And the other one might be like, I'm all about minimalism and I just want to, save money and live in some kind of, I don't even care how it looks like. And this can create problems. I even know a person who gave the HEXACO test to his partner when they started dating, because he was like, hey, I want to see if I should be going out with this girl, because I don't want to be wasting my time. Like, it doesn't sound very romantic, but they got married. So there was a romantic happy end. But he told me like there were, in many categories, most of the categories and subcategories, she was like the perfect girl. But there was one category where he had a really low score and she had kind of a high score. And he had to think like, okay, is this going to be a problem? Because he was like, okay, either I'm going to give up my beliefs in this category, or it is going to create problems. And in the end he decided that it's worth it, and he just has to understand that at some point this is going to show up, because it's there. And it's important to understand that the tendencies we have, this stable patterns in our behavior, is something that we were born with, that is influenced by the way we were raised, our culture, environment, and it's very hard to completely change it. So if you have someone who is very, very high in conscientiousness, it's going to be very unlikely that, through hard work, they will have a really, really low score. they can, the awareness is something that's very important. I talked about it with my agreeableness score, to kind of being aware that, okay, this is something which can be an advantage and a disadvantage, and I need to find the right point so that I can use it best I can. Another way how you can use the HEXACO test is to give it to someone that you're thinking of hiring. So if you're hiring someone, this is a really great way how to see what their personality is. Probably you will be looking for someone with a high conscientiousness. If you are in a creative business and you want someone who will be thinking out of the box, you might want someone with higher score in openness to experience, because they are, all the time trying something new, so it can give them new perspectives. If you want someone that will not agree with everything you do, but will challenge you, you might want someone who has lower score in agreeableness, and so on and so on. So you can very quickly eliminate certain candidates just based on the HEXACO score that they give you. And the last way how you can use the HEXACO test is to give it to someone else to fill it out for you. So when you're on the website and you hit, taking the test, you can select one out of two options. So you can do it about yourself, or you can do it about someone else. So if every one of us has different roles in our lives. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife, daughter, I'm also a colleague, I'm an athlete, and so on and so on. So I play different roles in my life, and I adjust my personality to each of the roles. So I'm not always the same. And it might be quite useful if you ask your closest friends and coworkers and family if they fill it out about you, so you can see how they perceive it. If you want to boost your career, it might be a good idea to see how your coworkers, or even a manager, if you have a good relationship with your manager, you can ask them to also take it and give you the results, so you understand how you're perceived. Maybe in general you're perceived as a person with high conscientiousness, which usually predicts a good career path, but maybe when you look at the subcategories, you see that your attention to detail is not so high, that maybe you yourself perceive it as high, but the other people don't. So you might need to adjust some of your behavior. So I hope that this video gave you an idea of what the HEXACO test is all about, and that you will actually go to the website, take it yourself, because I think it just has so much information, and it can be really, really useful if you use it right. So let me know down below if you already knew about the HEXACO test, if you've taken it in the past, and if you did, what are your distinctive characteristics. And if you learned something new in this video, give it a like, and I will see you next time.